Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm going to use the microphone to make sure it's all heard on the recording and everyone here. Good morning. Welcome to Third Sunday Forum. I have the privilege this morning to introduce Jeannie Amundsen from the League of Women Voters, who's going to share where you can get really good election information, nonpartisan, as well as some rules and updates to Minnesota voting that was passed with the recent legislature. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for coming today. So we're going to go just quickly through a little bit about what the League of Women Voters is and what we believe in, and then move into some of these other things. Oops, oh. Yes. So the main thing that I really like, and I think is really important about the League of Women Voters, is we are nonpartisan. And we're actually, again, we neither support or oppose a candidate or parties at any level of government, but we do work on issues that we think are important to voters to learn about education and to members and the public. So you can see some of the stands we will take, but again, we don't support or oppose candidates or political parties. We encourage informed and active participation in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and we influence public policy through education and advocacy. And you can see that again, we encourage members to do that, and we send out information to our members to help to be informed and to know what to say. We are committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so, one of the things that we're supporting right now is the ERA. And in principle and in practice, we really feel that that makes a good informed, it creates, again, a more perfect democracy. And we are an activist grassroots organization. We have three main levels that we work at. We have the US, and we have Minnesota, and then we have a local league. And we all have the same mission, but we all look at it in a different way. Moves fast. And it would be interesting, but we don't have enough time for everything. And this is a wonderful PowerPoint that they put together, so I didn't want to take away. So our passion, we are the largest nonpartisan, voter-driven, volunteer-driven, on-the-ground registrant of voters in the United States. We believe firmly that everyone should vote. We do not care how you vote. We believe that you should vote. But we also believe then that you should know what to make an educated vote. So and you need to obviously be registered before you can vote. So again, our main thing. So to do that, we have voter registration. We look at like community events, high schools, colleges. We have information on how to vote, on how to register, but then we also take it into the community to get people registered. And then candidate forums, and that's kind of where my passion is. An opportunity to hear firsthand from the candidates. And we used to do this here locally, but now the naturalization ceremonies are all up in the cities. But again, we have a large group of people there who will help new citizens to register to vote. A Vote 411 is something, it's a national program, and it's co-sponsored by Forum Communications. So that is wonderful because they help to get the word out. And so it's a comprehensive platform that offers nonpartisan voter information in one place. So you can actually go there. There's our links to our Secretary of State's website to register to vote. But there's also, they have sent 3 questions to all the candidates and work hard to get the candidates to reply. And so there are responses to league provided questions. Plus then there's also all the information about the candidates. And the other nice thing about it, you can enter your address and you find out, you can actually see your personalized ballot based on your address and find your polling place, key election dates. And then there will also be, either if our candidate forum is still upcoming, it will have the date of that candidate forum. And once it's passed, they are recorded and the link to the candidate forum is right there. So then you can just watch it from there. So that's another wonderful thing that they do. And then, I think, that's pretty much that. And then we also, do have youth civic engagement and high school collaboration. So, a little bit more about expanding on that. So I have, so the Vote 411, if you're interested, so if you noticed, I have a lot of papers in the back, and as you're walking out, you can look at those. So I have some information on how to get to Vote 411 and a little bit about it. And so there's a couple different forms that we have printed with that. It, again, like I said, I think it's very valuable because you can see your ballot. You have links to our candidate forums and then it also can actually get you to the Secretary of State so that you can see if you are registered to vote and if you need to register to vote, that's all there. Our candidate forums, we have started, we do hold candidate forums for every race that will be on your ballot. And unless you live way at the outskirts of Olmsted County, and we don't, so we do them for the city of Rochester, for Olmsted County, for the state representatives and senators and when they're up, and then school board. And so I do have this, if you were interested, this has all the list again of, we have our last week we started and for a general election, and we have done most of the Minnesota House. There's one at the end. This next week will be city council and county commissioners, and then we will get into school board. So if you're interested, you can have one of those. The other part of, one of the things that we do a lot of, the register to vote, we also make sure that people know when and how to vote and where to vote. So there's a lot of different information back there. So for instance, we encourage, voting is important and everyone should vote, and not everyone can vote on election day anymore. So September 20th is when early voting begins. So we have dates on here on, when to do like the early voting and make sure that you're registered in advance to vote. So there's dates there. And you can look at some of the other things that we have back there. The other, I think, and so, again, with the candidate forums, we feel it's important that every candidate is represented and can get his or her voice, their voice out to the public. And we work very hard to get that done. We then have and so basically our format is the candidate has an opening statement, and then we will ask questions of them, and then they have a closing statement. The questions, some of them come from the League of Women Voters. We partner with the Chamber of Commerce and with the Post Bulletin, and so they are able to ask one or two questions, and the rest of the questions come from the public. And if you are in attendance at the forum, you can write your questions, in real time. We do have people look at questions because we do not want gotcha questions. We want to make sure that the questions apply to all the candidates who are there. They, really look forward. They talk about information, something that applies to that race. So, if a city council member can't do anything about immigration, we wouldn't ask them about immigration. So with all that, with that, and so we will take questions from the live audience. We are maybe live streaming right now. We always try to do that. Right now they're having technology issues at the library. We're hoping to have some kind of workaround. We'll see if that is happening. You can submit the questions live. You can email them to us. But there's also a form, if you look at our website, or you can find the link or a Facebook page. And you can submit questions via that, and then we will take those just as if you were in the audience, and we'll look at those. And then, so hopefully we live stream them. Again, they're recorded. You can find them, you can go to our website, or you can go to the library YouTube channel and find the links. And those are wonderful to do that. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna talk about one of the things that the state especially looks at, again, is advocacy. And wanting to make sure that everyone has access to vote and vote and like that. And so a lot of changes were made in the last legislative session. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the changes that were made to voting. And again, not all of these obviously will affect you, but it's also good to know what is going on. So these are the changes that were made.
It's going full screen.
And then if we go through, there'll be time at the end if you have questions on any of this. But I want to try to get through it. So. Okay, so again, the passage was HF3, and it strengthened the freedom to vote. There's protections for Minnesota voters, protections for our democratic institutions, and then just to empower Minnesota voters. And there are so many changes. Some of these I'm just going to do the main ones. So it's like who can vote, how we vote, when we vote, and where we vote. So we're going to start with who can vote. So the first one is, and this was one of the big ones that we've worked on for a long time. We've been working for this for over 20 years. So it's the restoration of voting rights for felons. Individuals convicted of a felony have their right to vote restored when they complete their incarceration. And if you're on parole, you have the right to vote. And so it's about 55,000 Minnesotans who now can vote. And there's a lot of information, it's again brought up. So like if you're in jail, but you haven't been convicted yet, you have the right to vote. And just trying to, inform people, and that's one of the things too. I mean, it's a felony if you vote when you're not supposed to vote. So I think a lot of the felons are very cautious. And so it's important to get the information and to get them registered and to get them being able to vote. Another important thing, because again, you need to be registered before you can vote. So automatic voter registration. We've had some version of this. This is a kind of added again. So if you are eligible to vote under Minnesota statute, which is the most important part of it, and you get a new or updated Minnesota driver's license, and you provide proof of U.S. citizenship, you will now be automatically registered to vote. You'll be sent a postcard to opt out because some people don't want that. And there's, again, other things may be included at future time. But the important thing, again, to know about this is that you still go, it's not really, it's automatic from your point of view, but from the Secretary of State's point of view, it's not automatic. We still have to make sure that they are eligible to vote under all the rules. So again, if you're not a United States citizen, you're not going to be registered to vote. It's important for them because again, they're historically not going to be voting at the levels that they should be. So one of the things is any individual under the age of 18, but you have to, so 16 and 17 can now register to vote. But again, they have to meet all the Minnesota eligibility requirements. And they won't be able to vote. Again, they will then receive information when they're 18 And then they will be automatically registered to vote when they are eligible to vote. And so it's really important because, again, as I said, so many of them historically vote at a much lower rate. And this is when they're in high school, and then they can be all excited about it and encouraged. So on June 1st of 2023, so these have all obviously taken effect, was the felon voting rights and the pre-registration. And then on January 1st, so it's a little older side, again, the voter registration, the date was going to be set up, but that one has taken effect. Then something else that is very exciting is permanent absentee voter list. Now, again, for people who need to vote absentee for whatever reason, you're not in the city during this time, or you are a voter judge, or election judge, you would always have to apply. Now you can apply to automatically receive an absentee ballot. And so that has gone in, and the other nice thing about that is they will send that out before, like 46 days before, instead of closer to the election. And then also direct ballot. So again, if you have an absentee ballot, you can mail it, but you can also take it to, and I have information in the back on where to take it. And so you can actually do that, and the election officers, instead of, some states wait until after the election is done to do absentee ballots, which really slows things down. This way, the election offices can start separating the ballots from the ballot envelopes, and then they don't actually then read them in into a poster. But again, the more we can get done earlier, then the faster the results come. The ballot delivery, again, there's assisted living facilities, battered women shelters. Can have absentee ballots delivered there. How you return the absentee ballots, they changed when you can take that, and physical assistance that's required. Again, that just helps people who have issues due to age, disability, or language barriers to help. Foreign language sample ballots and multilingual election judges, that's something else that they've done. The information is there that we provide for them. And right now it's that 10 or more registered voters request interpretive services, at least one interpreter will be provided. We have a history of, having a lot of different languages, of having ballots in different languages. A long time ago, it was more like Norwegian. And so now it's different languages. But again, we want people to be able to vote and to understand and to make wise choices. Electronic signature on election day, used to have to sign on a piece of paper. We now have iPads there. And so you can do that, but it's still, when you sign, you are basically it's an oath that says that you are signing to say this is who you are and where you live. And if you falsify any of that, it is a felony. And a lot of the election judges do try to remind people, and if they find this out, they will look into this, and it doesn't happen often, but they do look, and people can be charged with a felony. And so this is when those changes took place. They extended the voting hours before an election. Again, I have information on that to include Saturdays, longer hours. And early voting is important again for people, again, we can do that to make it more accessible to people. And then it also, employers are not required to give people time off to work or from work to vote. And so again, just to try to get our voting out there. And this is, again, a summary of when that took place. Okay, we are going to jump ahead. Okay, so basically, there's a lot of things like protecting the judges and how candidates and how students vote. And that isn't going to be as applicable here, but if you again, want to learn, I mean, the Secretary of State their office has done a lot to make it so that there is information available. If you have questions, you can go to their website. The League of Voters has, on the state's website, has a place where are there questions to, if you have, how does this work, and disinformation and misinformation. And so if you've heard something, you can go there and then actually get what is the actual truth behind that. And so that is another one of the things. So these are just a couple of, if you might have heard a lot of this out, people who are upset about some of these changes, common misunderstandings. So what prevents a non-citizen from being registered to vote with the automatic voter registration? And so again, it's through the Department of Vehicle Services. They have to provide proof of citizenship at the time when they renew their driver's license. And as long as they have that, they are eligible to vote. What prevents an undocumented immigrant from this? Because we have that new driver's license for all. So what prevents them from registering to vote? Again, they have to affirm under penalty of law that they meet the requirements to register, to be eligible to vote, which is being a citizen. And if they, and they don't register anybody that doesn't have proof of US citizenship. And then again, the 16 and 17-year-olds who are pre-registered will prevent them from voting. And so again, it exists today that, again, they have to be 18. If they're not 18, their registration is just placed on hold until they do turn 18. And then once they turn 18, they verify that the applicant is eligible to vote, age, residence, non-incarcerated, all of that, before actually being registered to vote. So with that, we can have some questions and I'll just mention my other quick things first and then we'll open it up. So the other things that, we do during the year is we provide educational programs. A couple that we had last year. We had like the history of the ERA and women's rights. We are partnering, we had someone talk about, they have statutes for equality. There's a group that is looking at having, because if you've noticed, many statues around the city of Rochester are white men. And so they're looking at getting statues of other people there. There was another program, was a roof over our heads, who was left out in the cold, about housing. Nitrates in the news, and our Minnesota elections are safe and secure. And so find out how this is done in Rochester and Ulster County. So I have in the back an email you can sign up to if you'd like to be on our email distribution list. And we only use that to send out information on programs and things like that. If you did find this interesting, I also do have our membership brochures. I would be remiss if I didn't say, we are a membership organization. And so if you would like to join us, one of the changes that they will be making starting in January right now, and if you give this brochure, we basically have our recommended, kind of required rates of a membership. And they found that, to really be diverse, to, in age and in race and in everything, that, for some people it is a barrier to what we are asking people to join. So it, again, starting, I believe it'll be, not exactly sure, it's in January, and the date that will be coming out. It will be basically what you can pay. And so that is a change that they've been, going to be rolling out, which I think is really important. And then voter registration, again, as I said, that's something that's really important. And if you're interested in helping with voter registration at all, you can either sign on there or you can talk to me afterwards. Okay, at this point, I am open if anybody has any questions. Yes.
Indicating the laws that the Minnesota legislature has passed, what is the guarantee that states, all the states in the national election must have the same criteria for voting?
So I don't know that Minnesota has in place anything like that to work with other states. I mean, there is, they do have where they compare. So like, for instance, you cannot vote in different Minnesota cities. And because they will compare that, they have, some electronic, the voter service rolls that they have. And so they will compare that. I believe, we have national laws that say this. I think again, people, they will look at that, but again, the Minnesota laws that passed do not address any of the other states.
No, I'm not meaning that. I mean, that's my assumption, that's true. But what is it that keeps the states under the same guidelines and laws for the national voting?
Well, that's way out of my expertise, but again, I'm just not.
There isn't anything like that. The Constitution just specifies how votes have to be conducted. It doesn't specify anything about how people have to be registered to vote. It's controversial, obviously. It's just the way that the Constitution was constructed, but there are movements sort of, it would require an amendment to basically specify what the minimum registration criteria would be. But that is still talked about. It hasn't even, we haven't got close. So it could be coming, I don't. But there is no guarantee.
See, I think that's very important for us to know. When we start hearing these news reports about what's happening in this state and that state and the other state, and as Minnesotans were saying, how can they do that?
Well, because they can.
Yeah, and so I just would point out that we're not where we should be. I'm just trying to point out that we're not where we should be in terms of the national election standards. If we're going to really believe that everybody has the right to vote.
I'm gonna bring it. Sorry.
A larger concern is, registration is a part of the process, obviously, but the larger concern is how voting itself is conducted. So how do you, are polls open? Can you vote early? How an election is certified, because there are now states that have a certification board, which is not this way bipartisan. They decide if the vote is valid or not. So there's a lot of questions about the entire process, from when you begin to even allow candidates to be eligible to when the vote is certified and becomes an official, January 6th, I guess it is, an official count. So there are things at the national level that say how things must be done, but there are things at every level that explain how they're conducted. And that is not, there's no standard. So I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's just the way it is.
So in various states, they are changing how they're certified.
Absolutely, yeah.
And is any of that going to court before the election?
It's being taken to court. Well, I can probably get here. I'm sorry, I can't get that. It's being taken to court, but it's sort of sometimes those certification boards. I'll pick on Georgia because that's the one that annoys most people. It says basically if there's any reasonable a question about if the vote was done correctly or fairly. Well, but it doesn't say what that is.
Right.
The board that uses that criteria is a partisan board, unfortunately, and it's just the way it is, you know, it's Georgia. Those are elected people, but of course they're elected by a party, not by, you know, independent board. That's just, I keep saying it's just the way, I should say it, that is the way it works, not just the way it works, because the Constitution of the United States does not specify how that works. It's left to states to conduct the votes of citizens in those states. That's what the Constitution says. It just says when and then how you certify the results and how does a vote become done, you know, where you say, okay, now we've elected our Congress or the Senator or President. That's in the Constitution, not much else. So, I mean, it's frustrating, I suppose, but that's true.
So do you think in the future that will change depending on Congress? Actually, a good
It's a really good question, because you can imagine how that might be controversial based on who runs Congress at the time you're trying to. But it would be an amendment, so that would be most of the states have to ratify
the amendment of
the
the Constitution.
Constitution. And of course,
It have to be approved in that, I mean.
and you can see that, yeah, you can see that would be something we would disagree on. We would disagree on that, really, we would. And the question is, how do we resolve those disagreements, if at all?
There's very few states that have similar election laws.
Yeah,
It's
then there's
mainly
like-
in Washington and Oregon. California has all the propositions. We have voter registration
Right.
issues in some other places.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure how many states have identical voting things.
Very few.
In an electoral
Yeah.
college.
Yeah.
In world, do we really want to have a federal, we want the feds to get involved in this? Or
Yeah.
should it stay at the state
Yeah.
level? I mean, that's what we're talking.
It's fine, again, I'm not saying anything's right or wrong, I'm saying basically what is.
Yeah, so when I hear, you know, is there gonna be a change? I like that.
I don't know.
No.
I would say I don't know. You will see a minimum standard of proof of citizenship. I think that will come before Congress, and I think it will be approved. There'll be a proof of citizenship required. It is in Minnesota, by the way. But, and I think almost every state does have that. I mean, you know, I don't know that, because I don't know, I'd have to know 50 states. But I'm pretty sure most states have it. But why isn't that in the Constitution? You have to ask the question, because it says in the Constitution, citizens will vote. So would you want to have the requirement to prove it or not? What holds that back is there's a lot of people that vote that don't have an easy means to get the proof. And you disenfranchise them, so what are you gonna do about that? You know, so it's a real question, you know, these are things that kind of
We
way
can
people,
focus on that issue rather than
yeah,
blowing it.
yeah, whether the electoral college is the right way to do it, okay, we're going out somewhere else.
I know Tony had a question and then we'll go back. I just want to provide some information. Last week, we had a great meeting for a newly revised group at our church. It's gonna be CUMC Church and Society Action Committee. And so in the Methodist Church, all of these efforts, along with many other things that follow our social principles, it's called Church and Society. So some of the people with the congregation got together last Sunday, we finalized the name. Couple of the things that we are going to be doing is, we will have a table again on the Sunday, after September 20th to help people register to vote. Okay, we are going to be tabling. We also hope to go into Saturday noon meals and talk to people to make sure that they know that they can vote. And we did help at a tabling event recently. There were 3 individuals that were coming into our thrift store or Saturday noon meals. They were coming for some reason that when we asked them if they're registered to vote, they said, well, no, I can't vote. Well, it was because they had a felony conviction history. And so we were able to provide that information on, hey, you're not being held in custody, you can vote. And then the other thing is, well, there's actually a couple things more, sorry. The other thing that we hope to do on November 3rd, as part of, again, this new group that's forming, is use that slogan, souls to the polls. So on Sunday, November 3rd, we will be using our church van and carpooling for people that want to vote, and we'll probably be going to the government center. So that is Sunday, November 3rd. And then one of the things that George and I are involved with
is an organization called We Choose Us, it's statewide. It's all looking at voter rights. And what we hope to do is go to our Olmsted County Board and ask them to pass a resolution, which it would be for Election Hero,
Election hero.
Election Hero Day. And it's to recognize all of the people that are working to make sure our elections are safe and fair. And so that's something that it's very easy to do. Ask your county board to pass this resolution to honor people that work with elections. So lots going on within our congregation. We'll have more information, but just let us know if you have any questions or if we can help with anything too.
So, I think it would be really helpful. I know it has already started, but the League of Women Voters, you know, is interviewing all the candidates. And I think our people in our church need to know where that is. So I hope at your table next week, they will still be going on. So if you give them a list, so and attend, and that's in the library, right?
Yes, at the library and
Because the fifth and sixth of October is when we will be doing.
at the table.
Table.
Yeah.
And it'll be sacred votes, which I won't get into that here, but that's the national, basically our national church's organization label for what we're going to be doing. Called sacred votes. The other thing is, I just want to throw in a plug here. You can start voting at 5. It's started, okay, it's gonna start. And if you're interested, in fact, what you'll see if we know what we're doing, we'll be changing over from registration, which is very important because you're more likely to vote when you're registered to vote, to voting. There's no reason to register, to go somewhere to register to vote and not vote, not starting Friday. So Friday is the day, is the day that you'll be able to start voting. So just be aware of that, and you can tell anybody else that is interested in that, who wants to vote either by mail or in person, because you can go down to our 2022 building in Rochester campus and start voting on Friday. So,
And we can print out ballots for people that want to see what the ballot looks like starting on September 20th.
yeah, but there's something else that you'll see going on, and I'm not going to go into it because we have to go to church. And who knew, but our founder, John Wesley, has rules for voting. And you'll see what they are, they're coming, so.
Very simple. We're having signs made.
We're having some signs made to be able to post these
Yeah.
rules on your phone.
1774. It's
And I would say they're harsh, but very good rules, which we typically Wesley. I mean, that's exactly, yeah, right. So that's coming, you'll see that coming, as a congregation.
So I know that some states have what I'll call pitfalls, that if you don't get the date on your outside envelope correct, or this or that, are there any of those in Minnesota that have not been addressed yet, to your knowledge?
No, there's not, and they're actually, it's actually been the other way, they try to make sure that we wrote laws that protect people from doing that, but in Minnesota, the cutoff, that's not the right word, but the end of voting is at 8 o'clock on November 5th. It ends, which means any ballot or any information that would be part of that vote included in it, it must be in the hands of the Secretary of State or, the county of Olmsted at 8 o'clock. And well, if you're in line, I guess they count that as you voted by 8 o'clock. That's it. There's no postmark, there's no, I lost it, or my dog ate my ballot, that doesn't work in this state. 8 o'clock, November 5th, the election's over, and then and then any vote will be incorporated into the election tally. That's it, so that's the way it is. We know a lot about this if you have any questions, obviously.
I just want to get clear, all the candidate forums are at the library?
Yes,
Yes, yep. And if you, you can attend those at the library. If not, like I said, and if you want to post the link, you can find the link to them. You can go through Vote 411. Again, if you enter in your address, you will see your ballot, because obviously, depending on which.
starting Friday.
Yeah, starting Friday, yeah. Vote 411, it had been there for the primary, they took it down to add in all the information for the candidates, the new candidates who were not on the primary ballot. So yeah, starting Friday, you can go there And, you know, again, because depending on where you live, each city, ward and precinct is different, right? So that's there. There will be a link to our candidate forums, but, you know, you're welcome to post the link. Otherwise, find it on our website. You can find it in the library YouTube channel. I guess it's not as directly easy, but it is there. And yes, and I would, you know, strongly recommend, listening to them and submitting a question early or attending and submitting a question, because we do use those. We do get a lot of questions a lot of times. So I have to say that, you know, we don't necessarily read the question exactly it was written. You know, we combine questions, we, you know, make sure that they follow our guidelines, but that's an important thing.
What kind of feedback, both positive and negative towards voting, are you hearing about from the, as the League of Women's Voting, particularly in regards to those who are against voting or they're trying to raise negative aspect that not, you know, some groups are saying don't vote because it's not going to count. And what kinds of what are you hearing from your perspective?
So, you know, again, I think there's, you know, some of exactly like you say, you know, what are we hearing, you know, whether, you know, you should vote, shouldn't vote, it's safe, is it secure? I think, again, with some of these new changes, there's been, like I said, the questions that have been raised are, you know, people that are automatically being, registered. Is that really legal? I mean, are we registering people who shouldn't be registered to vote? And obviously that's not true. The other thing is, you know, there's a lot of confusion about absentee ballots and the voting early part. And, you know, you will get some things mailed to you. There'll be some groups that will be mailing a request for an absentee ballot, and that can go to a lot of people, but it's not an absentee ballot. And so no absentee ballots are being mailed to people to vote. Now, those are the types of things, you know, sometimes there'll be the, you know, can someone come and register, you know, get like a whole bunch, and I'm just gonna request 50 absentee ballots and I'll fill them all out myself the way I want it and mail that in. And there are a lot of safeguards in place that it cannot be done. And I think, you know, all these things that are raised, you know, people say, oh, I bet you could do this, and I bet you could do that. And they are felonies. And our Secretary of State, as all Secretary of States around the country, some more than others, but, you know, they do, you know, look at these and they will prosecute them if they find that there was something that was done incorrectly. And for the most part, it's people who don't realize that they really can't be doing this. It isn't always bad players. But again, not talking about Georgia, I mean, that was one of the things that right now, and of course, Georgia is trying to change that, but, you know, 4 years ago, the Secretary of State stood out and said, no, this is really how it should be done. So, yes.
How often do you meet and where do you meet?
At the League of World Voters?
Yes.
So we right now, we meet monthly and we actually meet via Zoom because we started that during COVID times and we found that works. So our meetings are open to anybody. Well, I think it's 2 members. We actually do send a link, you know, a link to our Zoom meeting to all of our members. You know, if you're interested though in coming, I mean, they're open to anybody. If you're interested in just coming to a meeting, I mean, it's mostly business, yeah, I will say that. And so I know some people will come thinking it'll be something different and then it's like, they don't come back because it's most of our meetings are business meetings. Our programs, you know, we try to have 5 or 6 a year when we do, candidate forums. That takes a lot of our time and energy. So we won't have any programs until after, well, and we do have a program again for members, but if you're interested, non-members can attend, where we talk about some of the things that we are, looking at, you know, our mission. I mean, I don't know if our mission. They call it a program, which is, it's like for advocacy, program for action. And so what are the 5 or 6 key issues that we will be advocating for at the state legislature and it's either at the state or the national level. So we do have that, but we will have programming, we have like, again, about once a month, starting in like by February, maybe we might have something in January, but February otherwise. But anyone is welcome to attend our board meetings, but again, they're mostly working meetings.
How many members do you have?
Let's see, we actually have around about 100 members. You know, and I think actually it's up a little bit, you know, it had been going down, and then, yeah, there was some politically things happened, and people started joining again. Yeah. And so, yes, we do, and not all of our members are politically active, or I shouldn't say active, are active on our board and stuff. But so again, just being a member helps you to be connected and to help your voice get heard. But we also, you know, are trying to get more people, again, trying to find things for people to help us to do things. And so, yes, it's been wonderful. Like I said, it's like around 100, really more than 100.
Yeah, and just to say how important local voting is in our own community and voting.
Yeah, I
And
will.
school boards.
Yes, vote locally and find out the information, because again, we want everyone to vote, but we want people to vote intelligently. And people don't realize how much your city council member does, how many decisions are made at that level. County commission, there are so many decisions that are made that affect your life day to day. And people don't realize that. And so it's really important to vote and to find out what they do, and then to vote for someone that reflects what you think and your values. And so that is something that is so important. So yes, I think if, you know, we need everyone to vote, and we need people to, you know, find out in whatever way possible. And that's why we do the candidate forums, because always, you know, you can find out, it's easy to find out information about the presidential candidates, about the national candidates. It's not as easy to find out information about our local candidates.
Right, because you don't see it on TV.
Yes. Not on TV, and it can be in the newspaper, but people don't read newspapers as much anymore either.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, great to hear.
Here in a second.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you.
Thank you so much. And